Story 1. Tim's parents had to attend an urgent family event, leaving him home alone for the night. As the night grew darker, strange noises echoed throughout the house, sending shivers down Tim's spine. Trying to dismiss it as his imagination, he huddled under his blanket, seeking comfort from his favorite teddy bear. But then he heard a soft whisper coming from his closet. Fear gripped him as the closet door creaked open on its own, revealing a sinister silhouette. The figure had long, bony fingers and glowing red eyes that pierced through the darkness. Frozen with terror, Tim couldn't move as the shadowy being approached him. With each step, the room grew colder, and Tim felt an eerie presence engulfing him. The entity spoke in an ominous voice, taunting him with secrets about his family. Panic consumed him, and he mustered the courage to flee from the room. The entity pursued him relentlessly through the halls, making the whole house feel like a labyrinth of terror. As Tim reached the front door, he managed to escape outside and ran to the neighbors for help. When they returned to the house, the entity had vanished without a trace. From that night on, Tim never stayed home alone, and would often hear faint whispers in the darkness, a haunting reminder of the encounter that still sends chills down his spine. Story 2. Lily's parents were out for the evening, leaving her home alone with just her favorite doll for company. Everything seemed fine until she heard her doll's laughter coming from her room, even though she knew she had left it on the shelf. Lily brushed it off as her imagination, but the laughter persisted. Fear started to creep in when the doll's eyes began glowing, an eerie red, and it started moving on its own. The doll's porcelain face contorted into a sinister grin as it crawled towards Lily, like something straight out of a horror movie. Terrified, she tried to escape, but the doll seemed to anticipate her every move. Every time she thought she was safe, it would reappear, inching closer and closer. Lily couldn't believe what she was witnessing. A toy coming to life with malevolent intentions. In a desperate attempt to escape, Lily finally managed to throw the doll into a closet and lock it inside. Breathing heavily, she sat in her room, shaken by the encounter. But when her parents returned, they opened the closet, only to find it empty. The doll had disappeared without a trace, leaving Lily with a haunting memory she'll never forget. Story 3. Alex was home alone, enjoying a quiet night, while his parents were out with friends. The phone rang, and Alex picked it up, expecting to hear his parents' voices. However, the voice on the other end wasn't familiar. It was eerie, almost robotic. The caller began to describe what Alex was wearing, what he was doing, and even what he had on his plate for dinner. Panic surged through him as he realized he was being watched. The mysterious caller knew too much, and his intentions were unclear. Alex hung up, but the calls continued relentlessly, each time the voice becoming more menacing. The stranger claimed to know where Alex lived and threatened to pay him a visit later that night. Terrified and feeling like he had no escape, Alex called the police, who assured him they would trace the call. In the meantime, he locked all doors and windows, hiding in his room with a baseball bat for protection. As the night wore on, the calls ceased, and Alex began to relax, thinking it was over. But suddenly, a knock came from the front door. Fear gripped him again, and he cautiously peered through the curtains. Standing on the doorstep was a shadowy figure, face obscured, just watching him. The police arrived shortly after, but the mysterious caller was long gone. They couldn't trace the call to its source, and the incident left Alex paranoid and afraid to be home alone ever again. Story 4. Sarah was watching over a sweet little girl named Emily, while her parents were out for a late dinner. Sarah and Emily were having a fun time playing board games when they heard a strange noise coming from upstairs. thinking it might be a faulty faucet. Sarah decided to investigate. As she climbed the stairs, the temperature dropped significantly, and an unsettling feeling washed over her. She brushed it off as nerves and checked the bathroom, finding nothing out of the ordinary. But as she turned to leave, the door slammed shut, trapping her inside. Panic set in when she realized she couldn't open the door, no matter how hard she tried. Sarah began to hear faint whispers and footsteps outside the bathroom, and her heart pounded in her chest. Meanwhile, Emily was downstairs, oblivious to what was happening. Sarah managed to call her parents, who rushed back home, but the door to the bathroom suddenly swung open, releasing her. Sarah recounted the chilling experience, but the parents dismissed it as an overactive imagination. However, as Sarah was leaving, she caught a glimpse of a ghostly figure in one of the windows. A pale girl with dark, hollow eyes. It sent shivers down her spine, and she never babysat for that family again. Haunted by the ghostly encounter she couldn't explain. Story 5. Danny was home alone, feeling a bit bored. He went to the bathroom to wash his face, and as he looked up into the mirror, he noticed something odd. In the mirror's reflection, he saw his own face, but it wasn't quite right. His reflection had a sinister grin, and its eyes seemed soulless and hollow. Danny quickly stepped back, thinking it was a trick of the light, but as he approached the mirror again, his reflection moved on its own. Panicking, Danny tried to look away, but he was transfixed. His reflection began to mimic his movements, but its expressions were malevolent, as if mocking him. Terrified, he ran out of the bathroom, vowing never to look into that mirror again. But that wasn't the end of it. For days, Danny felt a strange presence in the house, especially near mirrors. He'd catch glimpses of that haunting reflection in the corner of his eye, lurking just out of sight. Eventually, Danny's parents noticed his unease and brought in a priest to bless the house. The strange occurrences ceased, but to this day, Danny avoids mirrors whenever possible, still haunted by the memory of that malevolent reflection. Story 6. One evening, Mia was home alone, reading a book in her room when she heard faint laughter coming from her closet. She didn't think much of it, assuming her younger sister had sneaked in to play a prank. However, when she opened the closet, she found no one inside. Shrugging it off as her imagination, Maya went back to reading, but the laughter persisted, growing louder and more menacing. She heard whispers coming from all corners of the room, and an eerie coldness enveloped her. As fear gripped Maya, a pale, ghostly figure emerged from the shadows. It was a girl of her age, but her skin was ashen and her eyes glowed a haunting blue. The ghostly girl claimed to be Mia's imaginary friend from when she was a toddler. Maya couldn't remember ever having such a friend, but the entity insisted she was real and had been waiting for Mia to remember her. The ghostly girl's intentions were unclear, but she seemed fixated on being reunited with Maya. Terrified, Mia tried to leave the room, but the entity blocked her path. It was as if the ghostly girl had become possessive and wanted Mia to be her friend again. Forever. With adrenaline pumping, Mia managed to escape the room and ran outside to call her parents. They returned home to find Mia distraught, recounting the eerie encounter. Though skeptical, her parents comforted her. The parents comforted her, thinking it was a vivid dream or her imagination playing tricks on her. But Maya knew the truth and couldn't shake off the feeling that her uninvited friend was still lurking somewhere, waiting to be reunited. From that day on, Mia refused to be home alone, afraid of encountering that ghostly presence again.